All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us to learn a little bit more about the health justice community within the Carillon communities. We're really excited to see some of you and to be able to answer some of your questions and just share more about this community and the Carillon experience. We'll start off with some introductions. My name is Ben Beltran. I am the Assistant Director of the Carillon communities. And I am happy to be here joined by Professor Beth St. Jean, who leads the health justice community, as well as one of our students, Rania, who will be able to share some great insights about what it's like to be a part of this community as well. So just to give you a sense of sort of what we're going to do today, Professor St. Jean will introduce herself and share a little bit about health justice and the coursework. And then we'll have Rania share some of her perspective as a student and what her experiences were like. And then we're going to reserve a good amount of time at the end for a question and answer portion. So you all will see somewhere on your Zoom toolbar a Q&A button. At any point throughout the session, if you have a question, feel free to click that and you can type your question. The three of us will get that question. And it will sort of populate a list for us, and then we will make sure to get to as many of those questions as we can toward the end of our session today. And like I said, we'll reserve a good amount of time for that because we know you have probably lots of questions. There is an option to type the question. I think there's also an option to sort of ask to be unmuted and orally ask your question. So if that is something you're interested in as well, definitely wait until the end and we can do that. And of course, we have the chat feature as well. So if at any point that question comes up, make sure you type it in there and we'll get to it. Yeah, and so without further ado, I will go ahead and pass things over to Professor St. Jean.
Thank you very much, Ben. Hi, everybody. Welcome. So as Ben mentioned, my name is Beth. I'm a professor in the College of Information Studies here at the university, also known as the iSchool. My pronouns are she, her, and my research focuses on the various types of information-related factors that contribute to health disparities, so uneven health outcomes between different populations. And so I investigate how information contributes to these health disparities. But even more importantly, I research how we can come up with information-related solutions that can try to prevent or address these health disparities so that every person can live a long and healthy life. So I joined the iSchool in January of 2012. So I've been here 10 years roughly. I teach courses across our programs. We have an undergrad program that's called a bachelor's in InfoSci or information science. I teach some courses in that. I also teach in our various master's level programs. I teach the master's in library and information science students. I also teach students who are getting their master's in human computer interaction or HCIM. And I also teach students in our MIM program, which is a master's in information management. And I also teach a few courses at the doctoral level. So students who are getting their PhD degree in information studies, and really across all of the various levels and programs. My classes mainly focus on how to help people with their needs for information, particularly health-related needs, although some of my classes are more general in nature. And I also teach some introductory research methods classes as well. Ben, please advance the slide. Thank you. Okay, so a little bit about this community and kind of what drove the development of the community and my interest in this area. So the COVID-19 pandemic, as I'm sure all of you have been seeing, if not firsthand in the news for sure, that it's both brought to light and made worse health disparities. Some populations are more likely than other populations to become ill and die prematurely, even though these differences are preventable. And the COVID pandemic has both brought those to light and intensified them. And health disparities, they are actually getting worse. And so we really need to put a concerted effort. We need to be aware, first of all, to be able to try and solve the problem. And then we need to work on this. And my area is information. So this class really focuses on information as a tool to try and address health disparities. So our big question in this community is, how do we ensure that every person has the information that they need to be able to live a long and healthy life? And our objectives for the course that goes along with this community is to learn about the health inequities in the US and the ways that information both contributes to these inequities, but also can be harnessed or leveraged to try and help to prevent and address these disparities. By the end of the course, you will be able to take the knowledge that you've been learning throughout the course and your own personal experience as well to design and develop some type of information related solution that can help to address the information barriers and the health inequities experienced by particular disadvantaged populations. You will select one to focus on for your team project. So we will talk about that in a little bit. Okay, Ben, please. Thank you. So a little bit about the class structure. So it consists of lectures, class discussions, guest speakers. We roughly have about 4 to 5 guest speakers who come in, and some examples. One of my doctoral students is working on investigating the sexual health information seeking of LGBTQ young adults. So that was one guest lecture. Another guest lecture is by our director of the Horowitz Center for Health Literacy. So Cynthia Bauer came. I'm trying to remember what else. There's a few others. And our major course topics are consumer health information behavior, which is basically health information plus any verb of your choice, such as needing it, seeking it, using it, throwing it away, sharing it, avoiding it too, etc. We also talk a lot, of course, about health justice. This conviction that every person is morally entitled to a fair and a sufficient capability to be healthy. We also talk about digital divide and digital inclusion, so making sure everybody has internet access and can benefit from it. We talk about health-related information seeking and information avoidance. We also cover reading research studies, critiquing research studies, what methods are used to conduct research. We also talk about cultural competence, health literacy, digital health literacy, social networks, social support, and how do we facilitate people's health-related information seeking and thereby promote health justice. Ben, please. Okay, so the team project, a little bit about the team project. So you'll work in teams of about 3 to 4 students, and you'll pick a particular population that often experiences social injustice. And there's some examples on the screen, but this is very open-ended, so you can choose who you would like to learn more about. And then you conduct an in-depth investigation into your population's health-related information needs, information seeking, the information related barriers that they tend to face, and the health inequities that they experience. And then as a team, you'll draw on what you learned during your investigation and propose at least 2 information related solutions. They can be processes, policies, resources, services, apps, etc. Anything you can think of that can help to address these information related barriers and these health inequities. So now I'm very pleased to turn the mic to my student, Rania Markov. Thank you very much, Rania, for doing this.
Of course. All right. Hi, guys. I did health justice last semester, so I'm in Carolina right now. I'm a public policy major, which doesn't sound related to health justice. I fully recognize that, but you'll see if you take the course, it can kind of carry into every class major you can take. And I chose this course specifically because I want to go into law, and I'm pretty passionate about like health inequities. So particularly like medical law, that's really important. I think one of the most memorable moments was we had one speaker come in that talked to us it was, she said it in passing, but it really stuck with me. Like smartwatches, they aren't made for every population. So little things like that, you kind of just pick up and learn. I think the biggest takeaway is definitely how basically like health inequities and misinformation can carry into every single person. And to think a lot of people would find themselves relating to it. I think especially health injustice is something that brings up a lot of like empathy and emotions in people, just because it does seem so like you don't even realize how unfair it is until you look into it. And I think the general experience in the class was definitely just you were related to them. Even in Carillon, like everyone in my building basically is in Carillon, so I know everyone. It was a really great way to meet people, and everyone's at least passionate about this one topic. Everyone chose to be there, so it was really nice because everyone did care. And yeah, I would just say that was really nice to be in an environment where people cared about what you were learning about.
Okay, so I stopped screen sharing. So we do want to reserve a good amount of time here, like I said, for question and answer. I'm not seeing any questions yet, so if folks have questions, feel free to type those, or you can click that button to sort of request to be unmuted, and you can ask your question that way, whatever works for you. So I'll give you all a moment to do that. Ronnie, I'm curious, while folks are potentially typing questions, if you could speak to just sort of like what the Carillon experience has been like for you outside of just this course, right? So you mentioned like living in the residence hall with other students in Carillon. So what was that fall semester like for you?
Well, for one thing, I would say it was nice because you knew people that were going to your classes, so you at least have someone to walk to, which is really great as first semester when you don't know people. And beyond that, there was some bonding events. I joined the Carillon Council, so there's a lot of ways to get involved. There's a lot of opportunity that you hear about from being in Carillon. So I think just beyond that, you can get connected to the community better. You meet people, you can talk to your roommate about it. I just think it's really nice to have that shared connection. Yeah, no matter what community you were in, you were all part of like this one thing together, which I think was a pretty good way to bring people together.
Great, thank you. So we have a question about how often the course meets. Do either of you want to talk about that?
All right, so my course for health justice, it met Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so that was the main I-Series course. And then being in Carillon, you have an IDEA 101 course, which is about an hour once a week. So pretty low time commitment, I would say. Yeah, it was a normal class. There you go. And you get extra credit because you get an extra credit for being an IDEA.
So there's another question here about whether this is the one course that you take that's specific to the health justice community. I don't know if either of you wants to speak to that.
So yes, it is. You only have to take the one class, Carillon, and then IDEA, which everyone has to take, but the one health justice class. But I will say that, like for me, I was more interested in information after taking the course. So I'm taking the information studies class right now. But for being in Carillon, you only have to take the one course. So it's pretty doable, I would say.
Yeah, so that's only a total of 4 credits that students at Carillon are taking in that fall semester. 3 credits for the I-Series course, so it would be 3 credits for the health justice specific course, and then 1 credit for the IDEA 101 course that Rania mentioned as well. Let's see. Oh, this is a great question. Another one probably for Rania. Do you want to answer that question that you see there?
Do you feel this? I would say so. I think Beth tried to make it a more integrative class. So there was more participation. We had more guest speakers than I did in my other classes. But beyond that, I would say that it was a pretty normal class. It was catered towards being a class and not catered towards being in Carillon, which I found really nice, just because it was just an extra class that you would access to because you were in Carillon. So it wouldn't be a class that you would be able to take elsewhere.
All right. If folks have other questions, feel free to add them. We'll be here. We'll hang on for another minute or two. Professor St. Jean, Rania, anything else that you all want to share as it relates to these questions before we kind of head into some wrap up pieces?
I would say do it. It's something else to be involved in on campus. You can put it on like resume or whatever. It sounds cool. So yeah, I would say do it. Why not?
Thank you, Rania. And please feel free to email me. Like if you have any questions about the course, you want to see the syllabus from last fall, I'm happy to share that. I'll type my email address in the chat.
Awesome. So you can access that email. Also, we have a Carillon email that I'll show you in a second. So I will go ahead and quickly share my screen one more time for just some wrap up pieces. Just kidding. I see another question. Let's do that instead. Let's see. Yeah, so I can answer some of this question around the residence halls, and Rania, if you want to chime in too, that's great. So Carillon students for the upcoming academic year, you all would be living in one of two residence halls. They are just sort of, regular residence halls on campus. It's Easton or Hagerstown. As far as how this experience differs from a first year student, Rania can maybe speak to that. Like she mentioned, Easton Hall in particular is going to be predominantly students who are in the Carillon communities. So you would be living primarily among students who are also in this program. Hagerstown will have more of a mixture, but you'll still be living like in close proximity. We'll be clustering students from Carillon. So either way, you'll be sort of surrounded by sort of students who are in Carillon, and you'll get to meet folks who you are potentially taking classes with. Yeah, Ronnie, do you want to speak more about the residential experience and what that was like?
Yeah, so I would say that I know that some students are going to be in Hagerstown next year, but I think the majority of them are going to be in Easton, which does have AC, which can go a long way. So I do know a lot of people in like my year that stayed in Carillon because of that option and because they were more likely to get a dorm with AC. So I think that's a pretty big draw for people. But I would definitely say that it's nice because like on the first day when you're meeting everyone, you can be like, oh, what Carillon community are you in? And there's something else for you to talk about, to bond over, stuff like that. And there's events in like the first few days of school too. Like we had a DC trip. So you can go with your Carillon community, meet people before everyone else on campus even moves in, which is really nice.
All right, I'm gonna do some of the quick wrap up pieces, but if folks have questions, I'll make sure to check that one more time before we log off. Okay, so some important dates here. I'll actually start with the one that is relevant to what we were just talking about, which is the May 1st deadline for submitting your housing and dining agreement. So we mentioned that there's two residence halls that students in Carillon could potentially be living in, Easton or Hagerstown. Rania's spot on. Easton has AC, so if air conditioning is a draw for you, we will fill that building first come first serve, right? So the order in which they receive housing and dining agreements, that's how residence life is going to place folks. So if that's of importance to you, definitely get that submitted sooner rather than later. Even if you're still weighing whether or not you're going to join Carillon, you should still submit that anyways. So I would highly recommend doing that. We do have some upcoming admitted student open houses. We have one this Friday, and then we have a few more. One of them is virtual. So if you're looking to visit campus and just see more about what the university has to offer, we would love to see you there. There will be like at least one Carillon specific info session at each of those dates. If you're looking to hear more from us, we'd love to see you. And so May 1st, in addition to being the deadline for the housing and dining agreement, is the deadline for confirming your enrollment at the University of Maryland. So May 1st is a big day. We know that you all are potentially weighing options, but we're really excited that you've expressed interest. And you know, we're really excited to invite you to the health justice community. We think it would be a great sort of experience for you in your first semester and first year here on campus. So there's some contact information. If you have a question, this is generally about Carillon. If it's about, you know, anything related to the program, I would encourage you to reach out to that email address right there. That is my office phone number that you can call with any questions. And we do have some great social media presences as well. So if you want to log on to Instagram and see what we're up to, see what our students are doing, there's our handle for that as well. All right, let's see. I do see one other question that we will go ahead and take a look at. That's a great question for Rania again, if you want to try to talk about Rania.
All right, yeah, I was staring at it, thinking about my answer. So this community is a 200 level course. Some of the other communities are like 300. I give, but they are all catered towards freshmen because freshmen are in Carillon, so they're all doable. I would say the course level, I think the most challenging part, if anything, is more just like thinking things through and analyzing them. But I would say workload wise, it's definitely manageable. And everyone else is a freshman too, so you're all in the same boat. I think it was a really great chance. I didn't feel like a 200 level class, and it was one of my first classes of going to Maryland, so I wouldn't have known the difference even if it was. But I would definitely say that it's doable.
Awesome. Do either of you want to talk about maybe the DC trip in a little more detail?
All right, so each of the communities have like a specific museum that they go to kind of look around. Health Justice, I don't know what they're doing next year. If it's the same one, we went to the African American Natural History Museum, which was super interesting. And they give you Metro cards, and you just go after you move in. So it's the second day on move in. The first day of move in, you had like an ice cream social where they gave us ice cream. It was great. So yeah, it was kind of like that. Carillon has some other events too that are open towards students. I know I went on a zoo trip. There was one where they go to the Christmas market. Awesome. That's great. But yeah, and also I'm sure Ben is too, but the director for Carillon my year, Jillian, she was super open to any suggestions too. So if there was a place that you wanted to go to that you thought would be a good experience for Carillon students, I'm sure that you can suggest things.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We do the sort of really big DC trip, and then we try to coordinate some other excursions into the surrounding communities, really taking advantage of that proximity to DC in particular. But we're very open to ideas that you all have as students. The other thing that I'll sort of shout out here as well, we started to offer micro grants to students. So if there's something that you want to do, like you want to go see a play, or you want to go to a museum that charges a fee, right? Those are things that you could apply for through us, and we could potentially give you the funding to do it, so that you can really take advantage of all the great things we have going on in the DMV area. All right. I'll do sort of a last final call for questions. And of course, like, you have our contact info, so the question asking doesn't have to stop here. Well, I want to thank all of our attendees for taking the time out today to learn more about the health justice community and the Carillon communities. We're really excited to be able to invite you to be a part of this. And I also want to thank Professor St. Jean and Rania for sharing so much about this program, about your experience as a student. Yeah, and we hope to maybe see a lot of you in the fall.
Yes, and please do email me if you have any questions.
All right, have a good night, everyone. Take care.